Awesome. I think we have some people dialing in, so we'll give a minute or two before we kick it off. See a couple more. We'll probably wait another minute and then we'll start. Awesome. First of all, thank you all for joining as we continue our client webinar series. Today, we will be discussing hybrid and multi-cloud. First, welcome back, Sean. Good to see you. How are you?
Doing great. Happy to be here. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. We're thrilled to have you back. And welcome, James and Andrew. How are you both doing today?
Doing well.
Doing well. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, likewise. Excited for you guys to jump in and to introduce a couple new team members today. From an agenda perspective, we start with a quick 90-day recap. We'll pivot to the combined approach towards innovation for hybrid and public cloud. And then we'll finish with an overview and an introduction of our LightEdge's Cloud Center of Excellence. That said, this is a completely collaborative, open kind of forum on the webinar. So please, as you're listening, throw any chats, questions, anything top of mind into the chat. We will grab it and discuss real time and do our best to get you answers in the moment. Let's kick it off and jump in with some introductions here. First, Sean, I know you've done the series before, but would love just a quick reintroduction for the audience.
Yep, you bet. Name is Sean Stenger. I've been with LightEdge for just over 9 years. Currently serving as the Chief Revenue Officer, so overseeing the sales efforts for LightEdge and now the combined LightEdge and Connectria.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Andrew, likewise, the audience would love to hear about you, a day in the life here at LightEdge. A quick intro would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Rilling. I lead the Cloud Center of Excellence. I come to LightEdge via Connectria. I've been with Connectria and now LightEdge for approximately 6 years now and have a lot of experience in both AWS and Azure and look forward to talking to everyone today.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. James, take us home.
Thanks, Sean. Hello, everybody. My name is James Rorty. I'm VP of Cloud Sales here at LightEdge, via also by way of Connectria. I spent the past 5+ years at Connectria before joining the LightEdge family, and then really, actually, I've spent the past dozen or so years focused primarily on hyperscale cloud, AWS and Azure, and then kind of before that was in the technology practice at Accenture for quite a while before that. So excited to chat with everyone today.
Awesome. Well, thanks you all for joining, and I look forward to the discussion here. Let's kick off the convo. So to start, I think we wanted to hit just a brief, maybe 90-day recap. We've obviously been busy at work with the integration of the combined companies and have a lot to share. Sean, do you want to maybe help the audience kind of do a quick recap of the prior webinars and maybe where we're at from the past 90 days?
Yep, you bet. And it has been a very busy 90 days, a lot of great work being completed here. So from the kind of standpoint of LightEdge and Connectria combined as a kind of true hybrid cloud managed service provider, we've got 3 key areas here with updates. So first, we'll start with colocation and the data center footprint. First, we've completed the Megaport implementation across all data centers. So LightEdge's footprint now nationwide and in the tens of data centers. So Megaport implementation, meaning that Megaport is now a diversified option for our clients in our data centers looking for various options for interconnecting their private cloud and public cloud workloads. We also have recently stepped into our global footprint with the acquisition of Connectria. LightEdge now has facilities both in Europe with Amsterdam and the very recent deployment of Singapore in the APAC region. To note especially that the cloud offerings that LightEdge and Connectria combined now offer available in those facilities. And the acquisition, again, of the Minneapolis data center that gives us, basically north to south between Minneapolis and Austin and multiple sites in between there, right down I-35. Moving on to the private cloud, a couple really exciting announcements here. First is that LightEdge has officially launched and implemented several instances of our Edge cloud, meaning that LightEdge can now extend its fully managed cloud offering into customer premise. The use case there for various situations, whether it be security or low latency, but many clients who are looking to have a true managed private cloud managed by LightEdge, but into their premise. LightEdge has also recently rolled out enhanced backup as a service and disaster recovery as a service offerings, improving both the feature functionality as well as the, I would say, entry cost point and maturity of those service offerings. And then finally, one that's sure to get plenty of questions and a lot of excitement, we have officially rolled out a diverse private cloud offering, so diversification from just a VMware-based offering to include now a Nutanix-based private cloud offering.
Sean, that's great. Thank you for kind of the recap there. I think you'll see the highlighted bullet point on the public cloud section where James and Andrew will be spending a majority of our time today. But maybe just give us a quick setup on the pivot there and what we've been busy at work bolstering on the public cloud offering and how we're delivering that world-class experience for our clients moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you bet. And I'm very excited for both James and Andrew to do a deep dive on this section here throughout the presentation. But specifically, I think from the perspective of a longtime LightEdge customer, the news here is pretty simple. LightEdge has a managed public cloud offering, very exciting, and being able to deliver a true managed hybrid cloud experience for our customers. From a Connectria standpoint, the thesis with the integration of Connectria and LightEdge for the public cloud specifically was to refine and improve the offering in various ways. So that starts with the creation of a dedicated cloud center of excellence. That cloud center of excellence exists with the sole purpose day to day of looking to improve the managed services around the public cloud offering, like James said, specifically with AWS and Azure. The thesis there is to look at what managed service offerings Connectria was able to provide historically and look to extend those managed service offerings with a dedicated CCOE to look at more managed service offerings within those platforms to continue to expand those offerings into more niche functions within the platforms. We obviously continue to operate with the only on-net IBM solution for AS400 AIX power-based cloud services. And then specifically, the integration of the public cloud managed service team into the broader operations function within the business. So the public cloud managed service offering, rather than being a standalone professional service or managed service unit, is now an integrated part of the comprehensive LightEdge operations and service delivery organizations, meaning that kind of mature service level definitions now exist across that team. And there's also interconnection across the teams of engineers managing the public cloud, as well as down into the hybrid cloud offering. So that is a now integrated and more comprehensive experience for customers that are taking both private cloud and managed public cloud now from LightEdge.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean, and for the setup there. And Gregory, a great question. I believe we have a pretty a decent chunk of the presentation here specific to the managed services on the public cloud. So maybe we'll kind of sprint towards getting to that section here quickly. And then if there are additional questions, Gregory, please throw them in the chat as we're diving into specifics of the managed service.
Yeah, and Sean, real quick, just to answer Derek's question from the chat on this page too.
Yep.
Derek, the answer is Nutanix is available today. So that's an official launch by I believe it was the end of July. So if you have interest in learning more about our capabilities for the Nutanix-based private cloud, absolutely reach out to your account executive, and we can get you more information and bring our solutions architects and principal technologists to dig in to your questions there.
Awesome.
Appreciate the interest, Derek.
Yeah, thank you. I think we can move on and get towards we can hit this just briefly. I think we'd be remiss without just hitting this very quickly from the recent experience I think many have had. I know I was traveling that weekend, so were others on the panel with myself. So if you were flying or just in everyday life, I think everyone felt some form of disruption. But just real quick, Sean, I think maybe just 2 bullet points on this one. Maybe one, how LightEdge was impacted, if at all. And then second, maybe how we were able to leverage our support and operations team to partner with clients during the event.
Yep, absolutely. So fortunately, LightEdge was not impacted by the issues stemming from the CrowdStrike situation. We were fortunate to not have that impact our services or service delivery. So understanding though that there were many of our customers who manage those aspects of their own environment that were using those tools and were negatively impacted. So just a short answer there, Sean, is that we mobilized our support team to be available. We provided a lot of communication around, obviously that our services weren't impacted, but knowing that some of our customers were impacted negatively by the situation, what we were seeing as official communication for remediation, and then offering our expertise to be able to help our customers respond and recover. So in some cases that was helping customers restore from a backup, giving them guidance and assistance in deleting the system files that were causing those issues. In other instances, it was coordinated disaster recovery responses as well. So again, to recap, not negatively, LightEdge was fortunately not negatively impacted by the situation there, but did mobilize to communicate and respond and help our customers who were negatively impacted to remediate and recover to the best of our ability.
Awesome. Thank you. As we continue on, I think you've heard the message from Sean. He said it well. Maybe you'll see a theme here as we dive in, where we are in the right position right now to deliver that I would say that enterprise experience, that co-managed service across all platforms. And the majority of the time, again, we spent on the right side of this, that hybrid and public cloud. We've got a quick use case to tee this up as we kind of launch into it, maybe from more of a client's perspective or from an everyday kind of perspective on the next slide here. So, businesses today are being, forced, you all are being asked on building and delivering a 3 to 5 year strategy or roadmap, but, the requirements are going to change in year 2 or 3, and that right now. So as we partner with clients, our approach has always been to offer the combination of the flexibility in the services from a contract perspective, from a service perspective, but also having the other platforms readily available so that as your needs change, you can shift those workloads around, right? We have a client in the manufacturing space. They've ran a large ERP implementation on a private cloud, had some ancillary workloads sitting right next to it, but yet still had to run workloads at the remote sites to keep the operations running at those remote sites. In addition to it, also had some international sites that had heavy leverage on local applications from a latency perspective. At the end of the day, if you kind of oversimplify, what we were able to do is modernize the core infrastructure, deploy edge cloud at those remote sites, and then we're actively working with them on mapping out those applications. Which ones should go to public cloud, which ones may need to go to software as a service in the future. And if you think about it, all we did was just set up the services in the agreement so that there was flexibility as those workloads needed to move or become modernized, that the organization was able to without penalty, and that we were actually working with them proactively to facilitate those moves and migrations. The nice part is that now we're able to kind of co-manage that experience across the platforms, deliver that unparalleled uptime, and also keep it secure as those workloads are moving. I know that's a very quick setup. I think y'all can see the screen, but I think that kind of launches us into the next phase of the conversation on the public cloud. James, I know the audience is probably very eager to jump into this, so I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here today to talk about, basically a whole new platform offering that LightEdge now has. And I think this truly makes us, the only company in the world, or for sure in North America, that can really claim to have what is in our clients' best interests in mind. We really have no skin in the game other than to make sure that the solution we are delivering for you really matches what you need. And I think this, by now adding this public cloud platform offering, I think LightEdge truly can say that. The focus of this, the next 7, 8, 9 slides is really going to be what makes us stand out a little bit as it relates to the hyperscale clouders, specifically AWS and Azure. There are a lot of things we do, but I do like to boil it down to the things that really make us stand out. And I'll dive into each one of them a little deeper as we go on. And then for sure, if there's anything that piques anyone's interest, please feel free to put a question in the chat, or, if it makes more sense, reach out to your account manager or somebody on our sales team, or even myself or the Sean's after this call, and we'll be happy to help. But as it relates to our AWS and Azure practice, one of the things that I always like to call out is we are an AWS Premier Partner and Azure Gold Partner. And to just kind of put that in a frame of reference, there are over 100,000 AWS partners globally. We were partner 125 worldwide. That became a premier partner, and right now there's about 130, 135 globally. So in order to, and it is a very similar number on the Azure side. And that is something that is given to partners by those hyperscale providers. And it's not necessarily given away super easily, just kind of is based on that percentage. And it really has to do with the type of work we are providing for our customers. And we have some other bullets and nuggets below with other competencies we have. So migration, healthcare, DevOps, L1 MSSP, that's something I'm really going to focus on, because it is something that is a true differentiator for us as it relates to the public cloud ecosystem. Also have listed in there, we have a ton of migration experience. You can see the number of servers that we've migrated to AWS and Azure. I'll dive into that a little more, and that really ties more to our professional services offering. And then as Sean noted a little earlier, we are the only company in the world that has this truly IBM mid-range hybrid solution with the hyperscale clouds. It's a very specific offering that solves a very unique use case, but something that is super mission critical to a lot of companies. So actually, unless there's any questions, I can start diving into each one of those a little more in depth.
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. Yeah, so this is something you'll say that it says the AWS IBM hybrid overview. This is something that LightEdge now has, that Connectria developed a few years ago, that really solved a very specific use case. And it's something we have gone strategically to market with alongside AWS, and we're their go-to partner for this. If you all are running workloads in Azure, GCP, OCI, we can still run this type of architecture because we have made it agnostic. We just have it here in some of the reference architecture is listed as AWS because they are they're our go-to partner in a joint solution. But essentially what this does, for any companies out there, that if you're running, as Sean Stanger noted a bit earlier, if you're running those mid-range systems running on IBM I, AS400, AIX, those primarily are running workloads that are going to be pretty mission critical to a company. Think JD Edwards, think SAP HANA, stuff that's running point of sale, logistics, manufacturing, essentially the lifeblood for a lot of companies. And those type of workloads, and I think this is something I mentioned my tenure in the public hyperscale ecosystem. I think the longer I've been involved, the more I realize that not all the time is a fit to go to the hyperscale. So how do we come up with a solution that best fits what our clients need? So what we did is we built these data centers in the same data center. We built Connectria, now LightEdge data centers, in the same data center parks as US East and US West for AWS, Azure, OCI, GCP. Sean mentioned we built one in Singapore recently. That was a part of a strategic collaboration with AWS, and we're building more globally to roll out this solution. So at a super high level, what it does is those mid-range systems are not able to just be lifted and shifted to AWS, Azure, GCP, different underlying technology set. And it's something that if you were to go ahead and migrate those workloads, you would have to do a true, typically multi-year modernization type effort. With this solution, what we have allowed our clients to do is we can move those mid-range, so the Power Platform, AS400, IBM I, we move those to a LightEdge / former Connectria data center in those same data center parks as AWS or Azure, US East, US West, Singapore, other global regions. But all of those connected workloads, think, the 200 VMs tied to the 6 LPARs, we can move those to AWS or your other hyperscale cloud of choice. And that's something that, if you are in more of an all-in hyperscale cloud type motion, this allows you to achieve moving the majority of your workloads to the hyperscalers without having to completely reconfigure a super mission critical app, which sometimes can introduce risk. So we always like to point this out because this is something we really are the only company in the world that has this type of solution along with AWS. So we'll be more than happy to dive into that much deeper after this call with any customers that are interested.
Yeah, James, thank you for the setup there. I think and Gregor had a question earlier. I think the audience would love to maybe understand again the breakdown of services and maybe some of the how behind it. So I think jumping into that would be excellent.
Perfect segue. And Gregory, thank you for asking that question, because we have a couple of slides that go over this pretty well. And I think one of the things that we see when we talk to customers that are looking to move to the hyperscale cloud is, as you can see here, AWS, Azure, they provide you the base level building blocks for your platform. The compute, the networking, databases, all the meat and potatoes of what you need to actually set up production level workloads. If you're managing it yourself, though, you still need to be responsible for ensuring networking is configured correctly, that you're patching appropriately, that you have set up your application to auto scale if it's stateless. You know, the type of things that are not just, they don't naturally happen just because you've put them on an AWS or an Azure. If we can maybe go to the next slide, I can kind of show the difference on LightEdge managed customers. So, you know, essentially, if we are supporting your environment, these are the type of managed services, like Gregory, to your question, that we provide our clients. So essentially, all of our clients, the only thing that they need to focus on is managing their applications and their end user management. But everything from the OS layer down is completely handled by a combination of LightEdge and those hyperscale cloud providers. You know, it's one of those things, like, I've had more conversations than I can count, you know, with customers that maybe think that just because they're running it in AWS or Azure, and because those hyperscale cloud providers are certified for high trust or HIPAA or PCI, that they think their environment will naturally assume that. It's not typically the case. You still need to be responsible for ensuring that it is built and operated to adhere to the 50, 60, 70 checkpoints for each regulatory framework you are trying to hit. And if we want to talk about what's included in our managed service public cloud offering, I think that last slide gives a nice little overview, but at a super high level, it's really operational support, security and compliance support, and cost optimization, or FinOps. The operational and FinOps piece was highlighted a lot in that last nice visual slide. What I wanted to focus on here, because this is, once again, I think I mentioned a bit earlier, a true differentiator for us in the hyperscale ecosystem, is our focus on security and compliance. I mentioned a bit earlier, one of our competencies was we are AWS certified us as an L1 MSSP competent partner. To once again kind of put that in perspective, they released that a year ago, that competency, and we were one of the first 30 partners globally to receive that competency. And if you were to look at the other 30 or so at that time that received that competency, we were one of 3, maybe 2, that would be considered a managed service provider or an MSP. The other 27, 28 were companies that only focused on security. Think your Trend Micros, Arctic Wolfs, the ones that's the only thing they do. And I think by us receiving this competency, it was AWS validating not only our security and compliance approach, but how it fit in holistically to what we are providing to our clients to kind of cover everything. So when we're talking security and compliance, I think the things that make us stand out in the ecosystem is not only do we include or do we support the native out-of-the-box services that come from AWS or Azure. Think, like cloud, Security Hub, native AWS or Azure WAFs, those type of things. That's, I think, pretty standard for us. But where we go above and beyond is we are including a bunch of third-party security and compliance tools on top of those native out-of-the-box AWS and Azure services. And those third-party tools that we're leveraging, a lot of those tools are from the other L1 MSSP competency type partners. So we include Sumo Logic as our SIM solution, Rapid7 for vulnerability scanning, Trend Micro for intrusion detection, intrusion prevention, file integrity monitoring, cloud conformity for compliance management. So all those things are included as part of our standard out-of-the-box service. And I think we have it here listed as managed security and compliance. You can't be compliant unless you are secure. But just because you are secure does not necessarily mean you are compliant. And I think, once again, this is something where both LightEdge and Connectria, we both, as companies, had undergone and have undergone multiple audits and compliance checks annually. So what that means for our clients is when you're undergoing an audit, not only are we able to provide you our paperwork and help you with your audit process, we are able to essentially not certify it, but can give you as much evidence and framework documentation as you need when you're undergoing that process to help you pass your audit. So we have and once again, something that is pretty unique in this and the hyperscale cloud ecosystem is that we have an in-house compliance team. 50% of their job is ensuring that we pass all our audits. They're also very customer facing. And I think a lot of that has to do with being, our bread and butter is supporting mission critical compliant workloads.
Awesome. And James, that's a great overview. I mean, it sounds like there's a ton going on here, but just to make sure that the audience understands, maybe properly, I mean, it looks like we do, way more than just managing a traditional virtual machine on the public cloud.
Correct. Yeah. So I think, and we'll kind of dive into a little deeper when we get into the Cloud Center of Excellence, the line between infrastructure and VMs and platform and application on AWS starts to blur the more and more you're involved in it. And I think that's where our public cloud offering, initially through professional services, but now blending into our managed service offering, really covers that, because we have to be able to provide services beyond traditional VMs, EC2 in AWS and Azure, and go to the fully native cloud service offering.
Awesome. Thank you. I see, let's see, looks like there's a question. It sounds like we maybe need to give George a call and dive in, but looks like there's a question on hybrid options to be utilized as an alternative to 100% hosted Dynamics Business Central deployment. James, Andrew, I don't know if we have a quick answer here, or if we need to maybe just pick up the phone and give George a call, but definitely wanted to hit the Q&A section as it was coming in.
Yeah, I think that is something I would say I have a pretty good feeling we could do that. I would just want to confirm, and maybe let's just have a discussion after this call, set something up real quick to just make sure we understand the specific use case.
Okay, George, thank you for the question. Looks like we'll be reaching out to jump into that combo.
I think we can dive to the next slide, unless there's any other questions on security, compliance, managed services. Okay, yeah, so we'll dive into professional services, and this is one of the things, our public cloud, hyperscale cloud service teams have traditionally, and if you go to most companies, are split into professional services and managed services, and we'll kind of in a slide or two dive into what we're doing to blend those teams. But our ProServe team is really that is the team that when we're talking about moving you to an AWS or an Azure, that is going to be the part of the organization that is essentially looking at your existing data center, your existing workloads, understanding what is a good fit to move to AWS, what's a good fit to move to a pure cloud native service, like move from a file server to an AWS FSx. Go move your database to a Dynamo database for something a lot more scalable and seamless. Like that's the team that is going to help you identify and move you to cloud native services. If you're a little further along, that is going to be the team. Like I'm sure there's no one on this call right now that has not heard the term Gen AI. That is our team that is going to be responsible for helping you define and deploy that strategy. You could already be on AWS or Azure. You could kind of just be dipping your toe. But like what we found across our client base is there are customers that have no workloads in AWS or Azure, but because of the prevalence of Gen AI and how often it's talked about, we were able to deploy proof of concept workloads in there to really help you make sense of your data and see if you can drive business value out of it. So I'd say our professional service offering is something that can be as nebulous as our clients want, because there are so many different native services on AWS or Azure. I think the last I counted, we're up to 400. So to have a fully managed service for all 400 of those becomes pretty tricky. but we have a deep bench of professional service engineers that are able to get kind of as tailored as you want for any cloud native service or any hyperscale cloud project you have. You know, that's kind of the nebulous part, or it can be as hyper focused as you need. And if we can kind of develop project plans and work to hit specific goals, whether that be a data center exit, moving to more cloud native services. And that's just kind of broad strokes, like the ProServe arm. It can be as specific or as vague as our clients need, while delivering on top of the hundreds of native cloud services. So I have the next two slides before we get into the CCOE really just talk about a few of the offerings that we are able to provide our clients based on our level of our competency level within AWS and Azure. We've chosen to focus here on our AWS competency advantages. But there are other things we can do. But to just kind of give an example of some of the scale we are able to of the projects we're able to provide to our clients. I did just want to go into a few. Could we actually potentially go back to that last slide? Thank you. So as an AWS Premier partner, and then it's going to be similar in the Azure Gold, we have the ability to perform certain work on behalf of AWS and AWS professional services. And there's something called the AWS Migration Acceleration Program. So this is something where we can work with our clients to potentially identify workloads that they have been considering to move to the public cloud and identify what could be a good fit to go to AWS in this phased approach. So MAP stands for Migration Acceleration Program, and the three big phases are assess, mobilize, and migrate and modernize. Now, if any of the clients here are already kind of further along on their journey to the public cloud, then potentially assess or mobilize, we don't even need to jump into. We can just go right to migrate and modernize. But traditionally, what we see is it's a very tried and true process where we can do each phase independently, and one does not necessarily marry you to the next. If we do a full assessment and you decide, hey, this doesn't make sense, it stops there. Same with mobilize. Mobilize is going to be more setting up a foundational environment within AWS that sets up the bones for an environment that could scale pretty seamlessly over time. And also things like building proof of concept workloads, guinea pigging some stuff, and basically ensuring that what we've identified to move to AWS is working the way we expect it. Once again, you do mobilize and you decide, hey, this isn't what we thought. You are not beholden to do the next phase. Migrate and modernize truly is, hey, we figured this out. This is the way we want to go. And because everything we do is heavily rooted in the concept of automation and infrastructure as code, we are able to essentially develop a migration factory where, say the first workload takes a week or two to handle the migration. We've templatized and automated it so that all the future workloads are done in a fraction of that time. The thing that I would mention about each of these phases and the AWS MAP program in general is it is funded by AWS to us to essentially, and to you to essentially offset the cost of your migration or the cost of the work we are performing. There's a lot of details and intricacies of the program. And honestly, we have a finance team that stays abreast of all that because it's pretty complex to figure out the whole funding program. But at a super high level, our goal for our customers is that you are paying minimal cost to actually migrate to AWS. And then there's also things like certain funding programs and credits after the fact, depending on specific workloads. But that's the high level overview of the MAP program. And then there's tons of other programs we were able to dive into specifically with AWS and Azure. And then we can actually dive into a few of Yeah, so these are just some of the other things that we have worked with our clients in the past and are currently working on right now. Where if you're looking to handle, if you're looking to build out your own internal cloud center of excellence, if you were looking at automating environment deployments, standardizing, right, resource rollouts across your business units, these are all things that in working with LightEdge and your account team, we can advocate on your behalf to AWS to get credits and funding programs to offset any move costs or future credits running on the cloud. So I'll just take a second there and see if there's any questions on the funding programs or how they would work. But if not, I can.
Yeah, please, if the audience has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll hit it real time. Thank you, James. That was good stuff there. Thank you very much for running through that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that the end is just the Cloud Center of Excellence. I can maybe give a 2-minute overview, and then I'll probably kick it off to Andrew if that works.
Yeah, please. That'd be great.
Yeah. So the Cloud Center of Excellence is something that this has happened post Connectria LightEdge. And I think in one of the first slides we went over, we performed a gap analysis across our entire portfolio offering. And I think the interesting thing is that LightEdge acquiring Connectria completely added a whole new service offering that wasn't there prior to the acquisition. But that did not necessarily just mean, hey, we're going to come in and just do what we've been doing for the past 4 years. We're constantly looking at ways to make our offering better. And that is what we've done post this acquisition. And it's been building this Cloud Center of Excellence. And I think one of the things that we've really talked about is the line between infrastructure and application is blurred so much on AWS or Azure. So the things that our managed services team is able to do from a 24/7 perspective, we want those managed service offerings to be supported by the kind of the more niche professional service offerings as well. So what that does is it kind of breaks down lines between pro serve and managed services, where our clients are not necessarily waiting, for like, hey, there's a cool new Amazon service or Azure service we want to try. We don't need to wait for a service order or a SAL. We're going to get you the right engineer that's going to fix your problem as soon as possible. And I'd say this is still an early days offering, but it's something our clients have, I think, already seen the benefits of, and we're just going to keep getting better. So with that, I'll kick it to Andrew to go into some of the details.
Great. Thanks, James. Yeah, really the genesis of the Cloud Center of Excellence was the fact that we had a lot of really smart public cloud people across the organization doing various things in various organizations with different day jobs and different marching orders. And really, if you want to innovate at the pace of public cloud, you can't do that. So the decision was made to put everyone under one roof on one team to increase the collaboration and the opportunities to do more for our customers than we were currently doing. So, one of the things we realized was we had the professional services team that was solving various new and interesting problems for customers, that some of which, quite honestly, we could benefit from internally. So by putting those teams together, we're able to fix things in our own house that we were fixing to customers just as normal day-to-day business. Also, another thing that made the need obvious for the CCOE was the fact that you would have the professional services team that would onboard a customer. So they'd go to a customer, they'd gather requirements, they'd do discovery and assessment, they would build an environment based on the well-architected framework, and they would perform a migration. And then at some point, they would say adieu and hand things over to the managed services team with a pile of documentation that explains everything about the environment. But you know what? There's some things you don't put in documentation. You know, you build a relationship with someone, say, oh yeah, I know he's the person to go to if we need to talk to the customer about security, or this is the person that can get things done with this area of the customer's business. You know, you don't put that in a run book, but it is still extremely valuable information. So instead of starting over with customers in which, you know, ProServe team may know a ton about them, and the managed services team was coming in at the end and was having to very quickly get up to speed so they could support the environment, we said, let's put everyone together. And it's worked out very, very well. You know, sometimes on the other side, managed services would say, hey, look, you know, we realize you build the environment this way for our customers for a particular reason, but we think there's a better way to do it. And those feedback loops used to take too long between the teams, and now they don't. Now we have meetings on a weekly basis, and we can talk through those type of challenges, and therefore feedback goes through very quickly. You know, sometimes customers would be moving to public cloud and they would have a gun to their head in terms of date. So, you know, we're shutting down a data center. So we just need to move workloads, get it up and running as quickly as possible, and then talk about modernization, innovation as a day two activity. That was sometimes hard to do in our old organization structure. Now it's very easy to do because the same professional services people that did that additional migration and were, you know, putting little notes to themselves that, hey, look, this .NET system we could probably containerize or move to Linux, or hey, you know, even thinking really far in the future, maybe we go microservices and start using lambdas and functions as a service and all that type of thing. So the opportunity and pace for innovation has increased greatly. And quite frankly, having everyone under one roof has led to some really great ideas. Just to give you a really fun, interesting example. So within AWS, there's a tool called Amazon Q. Amazon Q is essentially a chatbot. So if you've used ChatGPT, Copilot, something like that, then you're very familiar with what it does. Now, what makes it really cool as a product is we can upload our own documents, and it can provide answers based on our processes and procedures, customer runbooks, all that type of thing. So we can have someone, the quintessential NOC technician who gets a ticket at 3 o'clock in the morning and very quickly has to read through a runbook before they can start actually troubleshooting a problem that one of our customers has. Now they can go to the chatbot and, you know, ask a couple of questions that are relevant. And one of the things that we added to it was it's not just answering the question, it's actually telling you where in the documentation the answer comes from. So that way, if you need a little bit more detail, it's right there. So that was cool. That was fun. We, you know, it was we showed it internally, and you know, the people who built it on the team got good pats on the back. But there's always the what else can we do? And the ideas just kept flowing and flowing and flowing. And one of them said, hey, could we actually use this chatbot to launch AWS services? And the answer was, yeah, why can't we do that? So we're still in the POC phase with this one, but what we can do is we can actually say, hey, build a VM in AWS, build an EC2 instance. And of course, it asks all the requisite questions about security and which subnet do you want it, which data center, all those type of things. And once those questions are answered, boom, it can build it. And there's no reason we can't do that with other services. It's just, you know, a matter of, as James mentioned, this effort started very recently. And so we're still building the pace of innovation. And of course, you get there and then someone else asks, hey, what else can we do with this thing? And one of the great answers that came up was, well, Amazon Q has a sister service called Amazon Q for Developer that you can actually use to create code. So, you know, one of the challenges in our business is we're creating infrastructure as code for customers. We're creating automation. We're creating a situation where you can push a button and rebuild production environment in, you know, 15, 20, 30 minutes, that type of thing. That takes a lot of work to maintain. So Amazon Q for Developers actually gives us the opportunity to write Terraform, to write CloudFormation, to tweak existing scripts as our customers are going through the release cycle, and really being able to move at the speed of public cloud, which is creating great opportunities. And you know what? That's just the tip of the iceberg. We've been together for a few months. We've started this level of collaboration, but the pace of innovation and what we intend to do for our customers in terms of service offerings, reducing complexity in the environment, and improving the way we serve our customers is just going to speed up as we move forward.
Yes, Andrew, that's awesome. And I think for the clients that have maybe leveraged the services, either pro services or the experience before, I think that's a great recap on maybe how we're pivoting going forward to deliver that kind of cohesive managed service experience. And a change there for some clients, this is new. So I think getting the introduction to it, letting you all know that not only do we have the services, but we're proficient and have the robust team behind it to support it, is also beneficial. Maybe to open up the dialogue just a bit here before we call it, Sean, Andrew, just from the client's perspective, what does the CCOE mean for them? Not only just in the public cloud, but maybe even taking it broader to the idea of the a multi-cloud approach that LightEdge can offer.
Yeah. So I think, Sean, when I think about your question, I think about what it means for our customers and the folks that are on the webinar right now. I start with, what is a cloud center of excellence, right? And the idea of a cloud center of excellence to an enterprise is a group, a multidisciplinary group that owns kind of the definition and best practices for how to responsibly consume cloud services, right? So usually those core pillars are going to be performance, uptime, security, compliance, like James did a really good job with an overview there. And then also cost optimization. So when you think about a cloud center of excellence for, as a starting point, Andrew and James have done a great job explaining what LightEdge and Connectria in integrating the businesses are building this CCOE to improve the offering. Because, you may start by saying, hey, like James brought up, we want a Dynamo database instance. Can you do that? Can you help us get there? Can you manage it? You can manage different point solutions in the cloud. The CCOE is really how you stitch those cloud services together and provide the right governance and framework. So as this cloud center of excellence evolves, what it means for our customer is that for those who don't have an internal cloud center of excellence, or maybe they have one and they want it to be better, more mature, this is really an extension of their enterprise and their team by leveraging LightEdge's cloud center of excellence to help, I would say, kind of build the framework around performance, uptime, security, cost optimization, those governance across their cloud services that they take, some being, of course, in public cloud, some being in private, et cetera. So that CCOE, while it starts with an internal effort to make this more than just I manage backups, or I manage Dynamo, or I manage something point solution for our customers, it evolves into an extension of their team where they can rely on LightEdge's cloud center of excellence to be their cloud center of excellence and help them accomplish kind of those key pillars. But James, I'm sure you got some thoughts there that to add.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head. Our goal is to just essentially provide the biggest value for our clients while breaking down as many logistical walls as possible. We want you to be able to call into your technical account manager, your customer success manager, say, hey, I have this issue that's popped up, and via this CCOE, you're not on 55 calls. You are talking to the right person within a call or two, and we are immediately addressing your issue. I think this is to just essentially get the right people in front of our clients as quick as humanly possible, and leverage our scale and our experience supporting not only AWS and Azure, but multiple platforms to just solve our customer issues.
Awesome. Thank you, James. Thank you, Sean. Andrew, I think we're close to wrapping up here. Any closing thoughts or remarks on that topic, Andrew, before we wrap up here?
Yeah, sure. What I would say is public cloud is certainly not the end of the journey. It's the start of a new one. And one of the opportunities, alluding to what James talked about with the MAP program, is when we look at AWS or Azure, not only will they help you with financial assistance to get in the cloud, they will actually pay to modernize your systems. So things that are running on an old Windows 2008 system that probably shouldn't be, when you're looking at opportunities to move away from, Windows licenses or Oracle licenses or those type of things and move on to AWS or Azure native services, they will partially fund that. And that is something I think a lot of people don't know. And it's something that's worth exploring and talking about, because the ability to become more efficient and have someone else pay a good chunk of the bill is a huge opportunity that I hope customers on the call will take advantage of.
Awesome. Thank you, James. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Andrew. Your expertise and candors, it was enjoyable. To the audience, thank you for participating and attending. We will be sending out invites for the next client webinar here, so keep an eye out for that. Appreciate everyone hopping on. Have a great day.
Everybody.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Thank you.